and they were very bookish, intellectual types, and most of them were from universities or were going to universities, and so it was not like the regular army. It was much different.
Yeah, the reason why I was wondering, and for the listeners, they're probably sitting there going, well, there's tons of military people. Why'd you ask this question? The reason why I was asking that is because this former Special Forces, he actually spent $150,000 of his own money against a federal court case against the Special Forces Association to get the truth out to the people and his book, The Expendable Elite. That's the reason why, and he was actually one of the beginning Special Forces operations in Vietnam to do counterintelligence. That's the reason why I'd asked you that question.
Well, they are expendable. He's right. There's absolutely no question.
Now, let me jump in here if I can, Mr. Chapman. Just so you know, Justin is active military right now, and we talk all the time about what to expect in the Middle East. What do you? Has there been any new discussions, or is this all just propaganda that's been put out over the last week with Hillary basically trying to get tough with Israel?
I don't really have a good take on that. Politicians like to mix things up. They like to take people and bring them off balance when the things that they're talking about, like what you're talking about, aren't real. They just do that to keep the public's head spinning. And I think that might be what that is. I mean, let's look at the administration and the previous administrations, the last two. I would say at least 50% of the people in important positions are Zionists. And so I don't envision the administration or Hillary or anybody else doing things that are difficult for Israel to understand. And so I think it's game playing. And I don't even know what she said. I just know where they're coming from.
All right, well, let me ask this here. If anyone wants to call in, Bob, you going to take a few calls tonight?
Well, sure.
Okay.
We get another half hour or so here.
All right. So if you guys want to call in, it's 347-324-3704, and let's load the phones up for Mr. Bob Chapman. Justin, I'll let you take another turn or two.
Yeah, no, I was just, that term Zionism, a lot of people get confused. A lot of people think it's against the Jews. I just wanted to necessarily state that it's, to me, in my research, it's essentially a movement and an ideology, not necessarily a people or a religious sect. I don't know what your thoughts on it are, Mr. Chapman, but
exactly the same as yours.
Okay, yeah, because a lot of people get upset.
You know, I have thousands of subscribers, and many of them are Jewish, and I would say that 80% of them don't agree with what Israel does. Period. And some of them are very good friends of mine, very close friends. And some of them have been to Israel, but they don't like Zionism. It doesn't represent what they represent. And I think that goes for a lot of people throughout the world. Zionism is a political movement of expansionism. And that's exactly what they've done ever since they started with Herzl and the whole gang of Irgun and their takeover of Palestine. And so I consider them a different group of people than secular Jews.
Yeah, because I'm Jewish myself, and I know Proof is too. I kind of wanted to move on a little bit into asking what your takes on a lot of people talk about conspiracy theories, but now they're doing it on the mainstream. And one of my thoughts on it is that they're taking over that form in the media, along with the Tea Party movements and the Patriot movements. And I really can't put my finger on what they're doing. Can you kind of emphasize on where you see it going?
Well, they're trying to, first of all, they see how successful all those movements have been. I was on a black radio station last week in Chicago, WVOM, and I had 3 different very intelligent women call in and ask me about the Illuminati. I was floored. I couldn't believe it. But what it tells me is that these programs of talk radio and the Internet are reaching an awful lot of people throughout the world, never mind in America. And we're exposing what these people have been doing for years and who they are and what they're up to, which is to create world government. And we have a whole new crop of people who understand what's going on and who's doing it to them. And I think that's fantastic, and we got to keep doing it until we can stop these people from doing what they would like to do. And so the movement that is being made is very dangerous to these people. And so what they've done is they've gotten their talk show hosts, the names, you know them all, I don't have to go into it. And they are being told that they must emulate in part what you're doing in your programs, and Alex Jones and so on and so forth, so that they can steal the audience away from people like myself and yourself, who are espousing truthful theories of what's going on in the world. And what they do in this kind of propaganda is we give you 95% of the truth, and the other 5% is subversion. And that's what they're up to. And that's why they're doing what they're doing. And they're going to be completely unsuccessful at it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I had told my friend about, because we kind of argued about this. Glenn Beck, well, he's doing a great thing. For one example, I was talking to a lot of people and waking them up, and I said, that's all well, but the same people that are being awakened by that same man are going to follow him as soon as he starts leading them down a negative path, as he's done time and time again. And he can sway them any which way he wants. So in taking them with that little piece of truth, as you just mentioned, you grab them, you bring them in, and then you can form them to a completely new ideology that they didn't want in the first place. But I do agree with you in that. I don't think it's going to work. I think that they're very scared, and that's why we're seeing a lot of the legislation and governmental action we're seeing right now.
And that's why we're being called terrorists, because we're not supposed to question anything. We're supposed to be zombies.
Exactly. And that's the mental slavery that I was talking about. And if people don't see that, and if you're new and you're listening in and you don't realize that the attack on you, your children, your children's children, those have not been born yet, then you need to take a step and look back at what society's really about, and look at the reality of things. And it's much different from the perceptive view you have right now or have had just recently if you've just awoken. And it's amazing when you wake up, and there's a lot of different feelings to feel. I felt scared. I know Proof did too. I don't know about you, Mr. Chapman. You've probably seen this all come about. Can you talk about how you kind of essentially awoke to the whole thing, or did it happen in the military with counterintelligence? And because I know that was around the time that they really. Yeah, that was around the time that it
did
really
happen in counterintelligence. When I first went in, I found out that the Japanese diplomatic code had been broken in 1937, and the United States government knew exactly what the Japanese were doing, and they lined up the shipments in Pearl Harbor because they knew the Japanese were coming to have them sunk so that we could have a war. And when I heard that, everything that I had ever learned as a child came into focus, and I began to think much differently about things. And then we used to spy on the Russians and the East Germans and the Poles and so on. And then I gleaned much more information about what was going on. And then we used to spy on our own allies, which I thought was rather odd. And so I got an awakening. And when I left the military, I talked to someone who was within my family who I had never discussed this sort of thing with before. And he had been a colonel in the medical corps in Korea. And he explained the whole thing to me and laid it all out. And from then on, I knew who the enemy was.